So last month, I did a video posing the question, is it possible to make the PT Cruiser look good? And as you can see right here, we have a selection of these. These are the Schyster Compact Wagons. These are the law-friendly versions of the Chrysler PT Cruiser. Today, I'm going to ask, is it possible to make these PT Cruisers look wide-bodied using these cars over here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Menyoo's object spooner function, and I'm going to try and place these Schyster Compact Wagons over here into these cars. Hopefully, we'll see how many we can get, but we want to try and get at least one cool wide-bodied looking compact wagon using these cars right here. So maybe you're a little confused about what I mean here when I say combining cars, so let me just show you. So I'm going to take this first C-Wagon right here, and the first thing I'm going to do is remove the wheels. So we'll just go here and make wheels invisible, and now we have a wheelless car. And now I'm going to attach this to the ETR1. Let's start with the ETR1 that we have here. And here we go, straight away. I just want to see if we can try and get a hybrid of these cars together, combining the two to try and come up with a brand new car. In this case, a wide body racing style version of the PT Cruiser. So already this is actually in a pretty good form, but we definitely need to play around with the positioning of this one because of the arches on the front. I want to try and hide those arches. Annoyingly, I didn't really want to impede on the front, so there might have to be some sort of balance that we make between these. I can cope with the badge being on this bottom bit here. We do have a little bit of arch sticking out there, but that might be okay. And then we have this arch at the back. It does give us a new rear end, but that might be okay. Again, not all of these might work. That's why we're going to try and do it on each one of these cars. We're just going to try and do the best we can. So in terms of height, I think the height's actually not that bad. If we were to knock it down, we definitely lose the front. And in which case, all we've really done is we've made an ETR with like a PT Cruiser top section. I did kind of want to get the look right, although we do end up creating like a new look here, as now we have an ETR1 with a plastic bumper, but the lights do look a little off. And moving that back creates, again, another weird look. I did want to try and keep the PT Cruiser in this one, but it might work out to just keep the PT Cruiser top and have the ETR1 bottom for this particular build. So I'm actually going to attempt it at around this angle. We do have these bits here, but I might try and hide them as best that I can, as well as this front bumper here. So on Menyoo's customs, I can go to front bumper. Now we have the remove front bumper option. Oh, that does actually show the grille, which might not be the best. We're going to be color matching these anyway, so we just want to find one that matches best with the body that we already have. And it might be this painted front bumper, I think. That might be the way to go. It's either that or we just have a brand new grille system with this down the front. In fact, I'm going to try this tuner front bumper and see what we can do about this front grille. The rear bumper's not going to matter because we don't really see it much at all. We do actually have this black bit here, which we can just remove, and then we don't have to worry about that on the rear. That's cool. We could always go for the panel van conversion because that helps hide some of this going on in here because we don't want to see that there is a car underneath. So we could go for a panel van conversion. That does look very cool, actually. So checking out these grills, I think if we go for one of these mesh grills, it doesn't stand out as much. So we'll go for the removed grill, I think. Now we could always add one of the scoops here if we wanted to get it looking a bit more racing inspired, and I think the vented hood actually works quite nicely here. On the spoiler, we just have these options. We could go for a full privacy window just to really hide the fact that there is a car underneath this. And I don't know, should we keep this spoiler that we have here, or do we go for the smooth look? Because we do have this spoiler from the ETR1 already sticking out. As for the wing mirrors, annoyingly, I don't think we're going to be able to get rid of the one that's on the ETR unless we hide the door, which isn't really something I wanted to do. So we might just have to cope with the fact that we have a double wing mirror setup. So I'll keep it to black because it makes it blend in a bit better. Now on the back, we also have this extra compartment and the wheel. They don't really show through, so we don't really want to keep those. Headlight trims, we do see the headlights a little bit. So maybe it would be better to have those all paint colored so that we can blend that in a bit better. Then we also have this extra rear light, which we could either try and hide, or using the bullet tail lights, they kind of fit perfectly inside this gap. That was completely accidental, so I'm actually going to go for that. So picking a paint color, we want to go for something that we're going to blend between the two. And as the ETR is already red, I'm going to go for just red. And we'll copy that to secondary color as well. And that's already blending in nicely. We do have the pearl flip though, which we're going to get rid of on the ETR. And to finish off, tint the windows just so these ones hide a bit better. We can't really do much about this. That's as best as we can do. So now we just go back to the ETR one, go to Menyoo's Customs, and now we've just got to try and find a way to blend this all together. So we have some spoiler options that they could add something to the car. That's quite an interesting look, actually, having the GT wing. If we wanted to make this look like a proper GT racer version, then yeah, I think that might work. And again, we also have the options of the canards, and we could actually hide this with the intercooler, but because we have that intersecting part here, I don't think it looks that great. So we might just go for the racing canards. Exhaust, we can have that coming out the side. It does look very cool. We'll go for that. Carbon hood's probably not going to work because we're going to get some weird intersecting issues. Roof, well, if there was a way to... Oh, custom mirrors makes them at least a little bit smaller. That might help. On paints, we want that pearlescent to go. So we have a nice red blended in together. And just to double check, we're going to go for classic red and copy that to secondary. Ah, that gets rid of all that as well, actually. So secondary color is going to be all of these bits, including this bit inside. So it might be best to go for black on those. Actually, anthracite black looks best. There we go. So that at least hides that even more on the inside. Now, if we just jump in to the car right here. Now, what I can do is I can now go to V-Stancer. And I can now bring that track width out there. And again on the rear. And now we can't see so much of the car behind it. But we might even have to lift that just a little bit with the size of those wheels. I think that actually works. I think that looks great. There's definitely some little bits here and there where you can spot where there's some weird intersections. But I think that generally, this actually looks amazing. And there it is. As the final product, and what we've basically made here is an ETR1 that has like a van top to it. I think that actually does work. You guys can let me know what you think. I'm wondering now which of these two we should go for. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to combine the rest of these C-Wagons with these and see what sort of fits we get. And so here we are with everything combined into each of them. So we have this one right here, which I think it looks like it has potential, but definitely because the width is so similar, which you think would make it work really well, it does also mean we get a lot of intersecting stuff here through the arches, and also we've got some light problems here, and also we have some exhaust problems here, which might become problematic. We then have this one, the RE7B, which doesn't look that bad, and I've tried to line this up with the doors somewhat. It does kind of make the front look a little bit goofy, but at least from this end, it doesn't look like the worst thing. Then we have the Sultan RS, and I think that scale-wise, it would have been great if the Sultan RS was a hatchback and it sort of just went down here, and then it would have fit in perfectly. We do have this front-end clash thing going on here, but we could have at least tried to make this a bit more of a wide-bodied version. But I will say that actually, generally, the wide body is coming from the C-Wagon that's already there. It's actually thinner than the C-Wagon, so it doesn't really work, so we'll ignore that one. And then we have this one right here from the Ortec, or whatever you call this car, and again, it sort of works, but we have this front end which looks a little scuffed, and then the rear end looks okay, but yeah, there's definitely some weird intersecting parts, so I feel like these two might be the best option, but I want to try this one first of all, because I feel like that has the most promise. Now this is fun. I can't seem to actually get into the car that this is inside of. I can only get into the PT Cruiser, which isn't really going to work. Okay, so by removing the collision on the compact wagon, we can now actually get into the original car and drive it. That's much better. So what I want to try and do with this first is actually go from the base car and see what we can do to change this to try and make this blend in a little bit better. So spoiler wise, actually if we do this, we get a much better sight of that rear end. And I think that looks kind of cool, actually. So if we want to make this all one color, we could go for that, or we can go for the carbon, which actually looks pretty cool. Let's go for the carbon. On our front bumper options, it's mostly going to be the splitter. And I think this one works because it's right on the edge of the grille rather than being in the middle of it. So I think that one looks very cool. And the skirts, we wanted to try and hide the other car as much as possible. And I mean, that's probably going to be this one. We do have this lump here, but I feel like we can get away with that. That looks like some sort of like weird aerodynamic choice. And again, on the exhausts, if we can, it would be nice if we can get these sticking out a little bit further. Oh, that's such a shame. Yeah, we're going to do that so we can plug up that hole a little bit. So the hood options actually has a lot of bumper options as well. Now that clean competition one definitely fits that front end a little nicer, I feel. Yeah, out of all of these, I think it's going to have to be this competition one just because of how this fits in with the grille in the middle. It actually really matches the line, I feel. Like this line that comes down kind of matches up with this here. Now, thankfully on this one, the mirrors are hidden, so we're going to keep it that way. Now, if I change this paint, you can now see what part of this car is actually the original and what part of it is actually the PT Cruiser. And as you can see, that rear arch is definitely a little bit of a problem, but there's not really anything we can do about this. So now tuning the wagon, we can now get some different options here. I don't know, should we go for like that whole van thing again? This ended up looking very cool in the end. Maybe we should try and make this one have a bit more window to it, I feel. So I'm going to try and keep this as open as possible. And to combat that, I'm just going to tint the windows. Although we do have this on the front, but there's not really much we can do about that. So we could go for a scooped hood and stuff again, but actually I want to try and keep this as stock looking as possible. Now on the front bumper, what happens if we get rid of it? Not really sure. Okay, the bar ones definitely don't work. It's not the worst, but we have this bar here, which is hidden when we do this. So I feel like this sport bumper might actually be our best option here. So I'm going to go for that. And then on the rear bumper, well, there's not really that many options, but we do actually have the freedom of no intersections on here, so we can get the style we want. And I think maybe we'll just go for the painted bumper, just so we can have our number plate on the back and make this road legal. Skirts, I mean, we could do that to try and hide the rear wheels, but it looks a little off. It's a potential thing, but the lines don't really match up. So now with this in place, we actually have full control on the grille with no intersections here. But as we've got this grille down the bottom, by having this grille at the top, it matches perfectly. So we'll go for that. On the mirrors, we can do exactly what we want. So we can, I don't know, put the tuner mirrors on. There we go. On the trunk, we do have these options of the spare wheel and our extra compartment at the back, which does make for an interesting look, but I'm going to keep that stock. Headlight trims, we can always do whatever we want. There's no intersections on this. We've definitely got more control over the style of the car this time. So actually, I'm going to keep that stock just because it gives it that more stock look. And the lights at the back don't get seen, so that's fine. So now all I want to do is I want to jump into here and try to use V-Stancer again to bring these wheels out. As it's, well, that's our only shot we've got at hiding the wheels here. And it's not the best, because we do have this intersection here of the arch, but if we just try and pretend that there is actually a gap here, it's not the worst thing. And then again on the front, we can just do that and get that look. It's not perfect. However, I think that this is actually pretty cool. I think this has worked out really nicely. Now, compared to the ETR1 that we checked out, this one gives us a lot more of the actual visual of the original PT Cruiser. So we actually have a front end. And in fact, we've now made a custom looking front end because we've got this custom combination between both cars. There is a gap here. It is a shame there is no option for like a full light cover for this car so that we could have basically turned that into bodywork. However, this front end here, I actually think that looks very cool. If I knew 3D modeling, these would be the sort of things where I would take bits from one car and another and then combine them together. And I think this one actually works pretty cool. I think this is great. I'm going to leave it there. These ones were sort of a little bit odd. That one just didn't work in terms of, well, the front end just didn't work. This one was just too small. And then this one seems like it would do the thing, but it's just a little bit big. It looks cool at the back at least. But this front end looks a little odd. I think out of all of those that we've tested, these two look amazing. You guys can let me know what you think in the comment section below, which one do you think looks best? If you've got any more ideas, any more car combinations you would like to see, put those ideas in the comment section below, and maybe I'll do a video trying out some new ideas. You can use both cars that are in GT Online, in standard GTA 5 single player, or tell me a lore-friendly car mod, and let's see if we can get something very fun out of this. But there we go, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you've watched this whole video, you can say enter in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed it, let me know by rating, commenting, subscribing, all those things, hitting the like button. And if you just want to watch more build videos, then click this on the screen right here. This would take you to another build video on the channel. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.